You love the universe of Tolkien, full of elves, dwarves, legendary adventures, distant lands, and magic. Yet, you are troubled by the fact that you are confined into this grey reality and you cannot really visit the place of your dreams. Well, I've got some good news for you. You live, in fact, in Middle-earth, and you are, in fact, a hobbit. I'm Johnny Lighthouse. This is the Johnny Lighthouse Show. Today, my friends, we are going to talk about The Hobbit. Everyone knows the story more or less. It's the adventure of Bilbo Baggins, a hobbit from the Shire, who finds himself brought into a legendary adventure which brings him across mountains, rivers, enchanted forests, mythical cities, and in the lair of a very dragon, before he returns back home with a chest full of gold. It is through this story that Tolkien managed to create the race of hobbits, which everyone knows at this time and everyone admires also, rightfully so, because they live a tranquil, quaint lifestyle close to nature. Though we must not forget that hobbits are all not fun and games. They also have some negative aspects to them. They are in fact experts in mediocrity, gossiping, uneducated peasants. The thing is, hobbits are pretty much a mirror of humanity. Tolkien gave them aspects of life that he found beautiful, like, for example, living close to nature, dealing with little things, little problems and little joys. These are certainly very human things, though it's not all about this. In fact, hobbits represent a social critique to some extent of certain aspects of humanity. Whoever has lived in a small village knows what I'm talking about. Villagers, in fact, tend to be a little bit gossipy, stubborn, maybe even uneducated, and definitely very suspicious towards anything that is unusual. So the story of The Hobbit talks exactly about how to overcome this limiting mentality through its ordinary hero, Bilbo Baggins. We all know Bilbo for what he has become, a brave, outside-of-the-box thinker, and that is true, though we often forget where he started from. Before he actually left for his adventure, and was eventually changed by the course of things, he has made predictability, mediocrity and comfort his very reasons of life. In a genius line wrote by Tolkien in The Hobbit, it is actually specified that Bilbo was so predictable that people could assume his opinion on any matter without even having to ask him about it. It is exactly this worldview, this mentality that gets shattered when Gandalf barges into the narrative. The wizard, in fact, represents magic that is surprising, the unexpected, the mysterious that looms outside our comfort zone. When he is offered the possibility of starting an adventure, Bilbo reacts with fear to the idea of the unexpected. He says adventures are nasty things, they make you arrive late for dinner. Yet, despite his best efforts to convince himself that it was foolish to go with Gandalf, ultimately the fascination for the unknown beckons him to the adventure, and he ultimately overcomes his fears and joins the dwarves. Of course, you would probably mock Bilbo for his reluctance. I mean, who the hell wouldn't want to embark for an adventure with a wizard that knocks at your very door? But the thing is, you would do exactly the same. Yes, you. I'm talking about you, the viewer. Do you remember that time when they offered you that job overseas that you could have grabbed but just didn't feel like it? Or that time when your friends asked you to go on a sudden weekend adventure but you started to invent excuses to not go? And there is nothing wrong about that, because you are in fact a hobbit. You live your little life like your little things, have pretty predictable opinions and routines. And even if there is nothing wrong about that, The Hobbit is showing you a distorted picture of yourself. It is showing you a way out, beckoning you to greatness, to adventure. And the only way to do so is by listening to the voice of the wizard and to do something unexpected and embrace the risk and the discomfort that come with it. We all love fantasy adventures, with their vibes and harshness, with their crazy stories and dragons and elves and enchanted forests. But the truth is that adventures are really uncomfortable when you actually do them. Yet, nonetheless, they give you extraordinary experiences of unmatched beauty. They enrich you, they change you, they give you stories to tell. And it is my conviction that what really makes a person more interesting than another is what stories that person is able to tell. I'm sure you also have that friend that when he's asked about what's going on, he just says, usual stuff. And I mean, good for him. He's happy, you're happy. But after all, it's not the type of person who you would really want to hang around that much, because after all, he hasn't really got that much things to say, right? That friend, who might be actually you, is a hobbit, with all its beauties, all its quaint little joys. But it's a hobbit with lost potential, a hobbit that could become the hero of their own story. And then there is another aspect of The Hobbit which is often overlooked: the importance of homecoming. The thing is, after you have experienced harshness and discomfort, you will learn to appreciate more your own little privileges at home. Your ordinary little life that you might be even despising at this time will feel like I've hardly earned privilege and a beautiful lifestyle after you have experienced what harshness really is. Also, all people tend to see the neighbor's grass as greener. That is a natural human psychological response. But when you actually go and visit the neighbor, chances are very high that you notice that their grass is not that green anymore. And when you look back, you realize that your grass, it's pretty good. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm firmly convinced about the fact that living a peaceful life is a beautiful thing, and it should even be a goal for many people. Though, it can only be a goal if you learn how to fully appreciate it. And that you only can do by actually stepping out of your comfort zone, leaving your little life, little home, and actually going on an adventure. So, let me be your wizard today. Go in a foreign country you have never been to and stay there for a week with extremely low budget. Go in a foreign city with no plans, just hang around and start walking. Or, if you think you're broke, just stay in your own country. Except if you live in Liechtenstein, then chances are high there are plenty of cities and places in your own country that you haven't seen yet and would never see if you don't even decide to go there once in your life. Give yourself a target. Look at a mountain in a distance and decide to climb on top of it. Decide to go and eat in a specific restaurant. Point to a place on a map and just go straight there. And I promise that the experience you'll get in exchange will be worth much more than all the time, effort and money that you will have spent on it. And then, when you return home, you will bring yourself your little chest full of gold and jewels. That is your dreams, your experiences, that is worth much more than you could ever imagine. And then, when you finally arrive home and you sit down on your favorite sofa, lay down on your little comfy bed, or drink a beer on the porch looking out a familiar landscape, you'll learn to appreciate your little quaint life much more than you could have ever imagined. Because chances are high that if you don't go on an adventure, it is because you are in fact a hobbit, like Bilbo Baggins. You don't want to really, or you're afraid to, which is totally understandable, but that is your limit. That is your dragon that you have to slay. So this is my advice for you today. Take out your sword and slay it. Pun not intended. And that's all I wanted to say for today. Thank you a lot for having stayed till the end. I really appreciate it. This is a new channel, so if you like what I do, just feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share this video with whoever you think might benefit from what I have to say. Also, by the way, I highly recommend that you watch my Liminal Spaces video, which talks about a topic pretty much similar to this one. You'll like it a lot. Till next time, my friends.